Hi there, Yowza readers. This is Marshall Masters, and I'm coming to you with a video that I think is pretty special. It's called Best Nibiru Observation for 2018, 11/16/18 over Russia. This was put up in two parts by a YouTuber in Russia, a young man who goes by the moniker Non-Federal Channel. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by showing you the two videos that were posted on YouTube by Non-Federal Channel. So you can see the original work, and I'll comment over that because a lot of noise is just from the airplane. And then we're going to get into a lot of analysis. I really want you to see how strong this reporting is, because I got to tell you, the deeper I got into it, the more authentic it got. So let's get started with the first of two videos. Video number 1. In the comments, he adds, "I flew on a plane, took a video, and noticed another little sun behind the sun. What is it?" Now, as we're watching this, I want you to know that I have learned a really important secret about how to find really authentic videos. They get no traffic because of the elitist suppression. This video was posted on the 16th, and when I first saw it on the 4th, it had only received 48 views total. And yet, that tells me good stuff. But before I go further, listen to this.
Блять, это планета Нибиру, 100 пудов.
It's not that often an observer actually calls it Nibiru, let alone make the effort to actually validate the observation. And now let's look at the second video he did the same day during the same observation. Video number 2, down in the description, he just simply states Planet Nibiru. What's obvious is Non-Federal Channel is doing a second video because he's not sure of what he actually videographed the first time. Next up, we're going to go into the analysis side of this video, and we've got a lot there. We've got two videos, we've got live sighting, we've got a finger flare test, we've got a gamma test, we've got camera movements. There's a lot to see here, and the more you see, the more you're going to realize this is authentic. But first, I want to take a moment to tell you about my newest book, Radio Free Earth, and it shows you how to use all of the different types of consumer and amateur two-way radios available to you in the market today, including GMRS, CBs, amateur radio, and so forth. There's a lot of strategy here, and this book was written for people who know nothing or very little bit about two-way communications. Just to help you get your feet wet, there's a couple of interesting series we've done for you. First one is Post-Disaster Communications. It's a 3-part series, and that's where you want to start. It'll give you a good high-level view of how important two-way radios are going to be when you're trying to survive in a post-disaster world. Then the other series we have that you might want to take a look at once you've done that is Citizen Band Radios for Survival with Marshall Masters. Did this one especially for those of you who are going, I'm so confused by all of this. Where do I start without breaking the bank? Well, here's where you start. Our strategy is buy smart and do it right the first time. And that's what we tell you to do. Now, I want to have a special message for those of you, my readers out there, because I get so many letters from you telling me about all of this grief that you're getting from spouses, friends, family, coworkers, and so forth because of your interest in this topic. And it isolates you and prevents you from really doing serious preparedness. But consider this. If you take up two-way communications as a ham radio operator, nobody has problems with hams. Everyone knows they're peaceful people, they like to play with their gear, and when there's bad times, they can be extremely useful. So, you can do something as important as marksmanship, making home remedy medicines, gardening, and so forth. And the best part of it is, you're not going to get any grief. So seriously, if you're tired of being isolated and paralyzed, watch post-disaster communications, and then you'll be able to make an informed decision. And that's all I'm asking you to do. Take the time to make an informed decision. And with that, let's get back to our observation report. And we're going to start with live observer comments. I'm always looking for people talking about what they are seeing in the audio, and we have it in both videos, the first and the second. So with that, let's go to video number 1 because the observer discusses Nibiru with another passenger. This is fantastic for me as a researcher because not only is the observer talking, the observer is talking to someone there who is seeing it with him at the same time. So let's play it for video number 1.
Это точно планета Нибиру.
Да.
Блять, это планета Нибиру, 100 пудов.
Notice that he says, "Это Nibiru." This is Nibiru. Now let's get to the second video because once again he confirms what he is seeing. And this time he identifies Nibiru for another passenger.
Походу Нибиру.
And what is he saying? Вот Nibiru. Here's Nibiru. And then they have a conversation about it. I thought that was fabulous. So, when it comes to our scoreboard for analysis, the commentary is solid. It proves that this is a live sighting. This is not something after the fact. This is real deal. And this is being submitted by the observer. Another thing that I really like, in fact, it just delighted me, was that the observer did a finger flare test. In the first finger test, he's blocking out the sun and the object of interest. In the second, he's only blocking out the object of interest. He closes by pointing at the object of interest. So this to me was fabulous. The finger flare test for video number 1 shows that the object of interest is natural and that it is not a flare. And if one test is good, 2 is better. And with that, let's move on to gamma testing. The gamma testing, we're going to use a close-up that I've extracted from the second video. Now, doing gamma testing, remember, natural objects generate light, and they hold up as the gamma is reduced. Lens flares and aberrations do not generate light and fade out as gamma is reduced. And this is how we discern the difference between real objects and lens flares and aberrations. So here we start with 1.0, which is the standard default value. And we come down to 0.75. Then at 0.5, this is where a lot of lens flares tend to flicker out and disappear. If they're not gone by 0.05, they're typically gone by 0.25. But as we see here, our object of interest is generating light and it's staying consistent. So let's keep going with the gamma test down to 0.1, then to 0.05. And when we get to 0.02, you can faintly make out the sun and the object of interest. These are two very bright and natural objects. How do we know? Because when we take it to gamma 0.01, both disappear at the same time. So what's the conclusion? With gamma testing on video number 2, the object of interest is natural. It's generating light. Now let's move on to the next and final part of the analysis. It's not that often that camera movements are very revealing as to what somebody is seeing and how they're going about their observations. This young man is very intelligent, somewhat skeptical, and follows through on his hunches. So let's see what he did with the camera movements. I always go to the first frame in every video because that tells me a lot. And when we look at this first frame, we can already see Nibiru is up there at the 11 o'clock, right where I've got the little arrow pointed. So he didn't notice that. Instead, he started looking at the wingtip, and then he pulls out and tilts down. He's looking at the ground beneath him. Obviously, this looks like it's up in the Arctic Circle somewhere. Then he returns to his first framing, his initial point of orientation, after which he zooms back out and then zooms in for the sun and object of interest and goes directly to a close-up. In my analysis of these camera movements for video number 1, it is absolutely clear that the object of interest is seen in the first frame, which is very important for analysis. But also, with all of the movements, the object of interest is tracking with the sun. So with that in mind, let's move on to his second video. Again, the object of interest first appears in frame number 1. That's important. Then we have the first close-up, which is what we used for the gamma analysis. Then we have an extreme close-up, after which our observer returns to the first framing and then does a second close-up. He returns to the first framing again and then pans to the right, pans to the left. I was actually more impressed with the camera movements in this second video than the first because he was really trying to test his equipment in this. It was very well thought out. Therefore, with camera movements video number 2, the object of interest is seen in the first frame and it tracks with the sun. So, what is the result of our analysis? All tests have passed. Yes, 2 videos, it's a live sighting, we have a finger flare test, a gamma test, camera movements. Wow, we covered this thing from A to Z. That makes it the best Nibiru observation for 2018. And what will we see in 2019? More of the same. Because the object of interest keeps getting larger and larger. For Yowza.com, this is Marshall Masters, and I'll catch you on the backside. To purchase our book, Radio Free Earth, online, visit amazon.radiofreeearth.org.